All right, well, I think this is everybody we were expecting. I'm just going to go ahead and we'll just officially start. And we are very, very, very lucky to have Patrick Howell with us today. And he's going to get some questions and provide some answers for some members of the Milwaukee Ballet School and Academy pre-professional program. So I'm going to go ahead and just get the ball rolling. Guys, if you have a question, just raise your hand and then I'll mute my mic and then you can unmute and go for it. All right?
Give me the hard hitting stuff. I need this. I need the Barbara Walters stuff.
Are you looking forward to your retirement?
Yes. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm 40 years old now. So, yeah, it's a good time to stop leaping all over the stage. And you know, I'm looking forward to teaching a lot. I mean, like I've had a lot of you guys, and that's what I'll continue to do with the school. So, yeah. Yes, it's a good time to stop.
And Pat, actually, I'm going to interject here and just ask you, because I've actually had your class and you mentioned teaching. You've had a lot of influence with a lot of different styles and a lot of really great choreographers and things in your background. Could you maybe talk a little bit how your teaching is influenced by that and what you've taken away and combined and all those sort of things?
Sure. It's funny because the influences I've taken from different teachers I've had, they're very different. Like a David Nixon and a Yoko Ishino class is very different from School of American Ballet class or classes I had at the Rock School. So I try and just make a bundle of that kind of teaching, and I'm a big fan of moving quickly. I think Petit Allegro and tendus and stuff like that, it's that old school maybe SAB style, quick, accountability for timing and counts and whatnot. But also when it comes to David and Yoko, a more organic flow to things, gentle to the body as well. So I don't know, I can't really put my finger on one particular style. I do think out each class and try and just incorporate a little bit of everything in there. So yeah, I don't know. It's an eclectic mix.
No, that's awesome. And as far as maybe tell these guys a little bit about your training. These students are just on the beginning of becoming professionals, your pre-professional training program. Maybe talk a little bit about how you kind of got into dance or your first experience with ballet and what kind of convinced you to pursue this professional.
I started really late. I was 15, nearly 16 years old. And I would go to visit my uncle on the weekends, and we'd ride dirt bikes. And he, at the time, was dating a lady that had 2 daughters, both of them wonderful dancers, Janessa and Jessica Touche. And I would always go with them to the studios, and it was Jacoby Academy of Dance, where, in fact, I first started. And the teacher there, Richard Roldan, would always ask me, where are your ballet shoes today? And I would be like, your typical guy at the time, like, ballet shoes, as if, at this time I was playing sports a lot. I was playing baseball and whatnot. But then I went and I saw the Nutcracker at the Sanger Theater in New Orleans, and I saw what guys were doing on stage and lifting the girls effortlessly. And I kind of sat back and I was like, I think I want to try this. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I thought to myself, because at this time, you got the wrestling was really big at the time, and guys in hot pink tights and sequins on them, and they're lifting other dudes, sweaty dudes, and throwing them around and everything. And I'm looking at the ballet, and I'm like, this is elegant, this is beautiful, like, and what they're doing is impressive, more impressive. And so I stopped everything. I went home and I said to my family, I'm gonna start doing ballet class. And I was lucky. I never got any. I'm one of those dudes that never got anything about it in school, because I was part of the jock crowd and everything. And they were like, can we come watch? Because they wanted to be close to the girls. No, so that's how I got started, really. And then I never turned back. I never stopped.
No, and that's awesome, and that's a great thing to hear that you didn't have any issues with it. I know it's becoming much more mainstream even now, but just starting there
Guys are lucky right now. Not lucky, but it's the way it should be. There's no backlash.
Yeah, it's being much more accepted with each passing day, which is great. Do we have any other questions, guys? Sage, go for it.
So I saw on your retirement video that you had like specific roles that were choreographed on you.
Mm-hmm.
So could you like explain the difference between like being choreographed on versus like learning something that's already been choreographed like on you?
That's a good question. I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier if it's choreographed on you because you're working with the choreographer. So therefore the choreographer will play to your strengths and things that work well for you. Whereas if it's something that's already been done before, you have to adapt to that. Whereas if something's being made on you, you create together and you make the best possible version that fits you and will work for you and present you in the best possible way. It's also a beautiful journey having a ballet made on you because you develop the character, like with Michael, Dorian, or Three Musketeers in England with Nixon. You can develop the character together. And you talk about how this guy's, I would ask questions and be like, how do you think he's feeling right now? Because I have my idea. I want to hear your idea. And it's just this beautiful thing that happens because it's the purest form of developing a character when it's made from scratch with the creator and then you as the artist.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. And also is a good question, Sage. And actually that leads me to another question for you, Pat, because having worked with you and knowing who you are, you really bring character to your roles. You really look for that character and many of the story ballets that you've done. In your experience, I know there's been a lot of them. Maybe you could just share with us some of the most challenging characters that it were for you to find, or the most rewarding, either one, or even just a funny anecdote about a character, because you have created several here and abroad. So maybe you could speak to that a bit.
Yeah, I've created a lot of characters, but even not just the characters I've created, also any character. Like in England, I was Peter, in fact. I was supposed to retire with Hook, but once upon a time, I was Peter. And I like to find things about the character that you don't think about right away. Like with Peter, I felt sorry for Peter in a lot of ways because he could never let it go. He wanted to be that boy forever. But there's a certain pain to that. Or with Frollo, he's your arch rival, or I don't want to call him a villain, but he has compassion. And I feel sorry for him. And I want to find those things that extract them rather than just like if you have this character and you're like right away, oh yes, that's what that character is. No, you got to dig deeper. You have to think more about it. So I would do research, find parts in the book or whatever I had to do, but to dig a little bit deeper. It's kind of like what Michael does with some of his ballets. Mirror, Mirror is an in-depth story of Snow White. The original books are always going to be a bit different. It's so not that everything's Walt Disney, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
For sure. I think it's interesting what you said about finding the character, but really you don't apply any judgments to it. So you just kind of let them be people and you're not like, oh, this is the villain and this is the hero, but rather you're just finding the humanity. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Just you got to find the emotional levels and what that person might be going through in that story, and in dance, that can prove to be difficult because we don't have any lines. I can't say, you can only dance it.
Absolutely. Other questions, guys? Yes, Marissa.
Did you always have it easy creating the characters, or did you have like trouble opening that part up of like within you? Because I know some people have trouble like opening that side of them up.
That's another good question. I think when it comes to opening up that character, okay, let's say, for instance, when I was working in England, we're doing 160 shows a year. I might have some shows, let's say with D'Artagnan, or that's just one example, where opening it up on that day would prove to be difficult because for some reason I'm not just feeling it. And that's hard to to navigate because you've got an audience and you've got a job to do. So I don't know. I guess could be like any actor. If it's a day of shooting and they're not feeling their character. So yeah, that could be challenging at times. The development process, no, because you do that over 4, 5, 6 weeks, and so you slowly create your character. But challenging could be on the day of a show. Yeah.
It's interesting. You mentioned Frollo, and we actually, my first experience of seeing you dance was Esmeralda when the company last did it. But I also know you have, you'd be the first to admit you have some experience on film talking about finding characters that you had a part to play in the role of center stage, which hopefully all these young dancers here have seen and know. I know watching it myself, that was a big influence. I know it reached a large audience. Could you just talk a little bit about that? That was still when you were training with the School of American Ballet, correct?
Yeah, I was training at the School of American Ballet, and I got a letter in my mailbox from Columbia Pictures saying, "Do you want to be a part of this movie?" And then I was like, "What is this nonsense?" And I scrolled down, and then they actually it was like almost nearly $500 a day to shoot this movie, and I'm 20 years old in New York City, and I was like, "Yes, where do I sign?" Yeah, I mean, I was on set every day. It's not like I was a major player in center stage, but it was an amazing experience. They would drive us out to an airplane hangar in Brooklyn, and inside the airplane hangar was a replica built of School of American Ballet on the inside. On the outside, it looked like a big wooden box, but then you'd go inside and you're like, what? I feel like I'm in the halls of SAB. And all those scenes, if you go watch this movie now with New York City in the background through the windows, that's a backdrop. It's not even, but the way it was lit, it was so amazing. Yeah, it was a cool experience. I got to be in a movie. I got to make some money as a struggling student in New York. So I still get residual checks of like $7 a month.
No, I mean it's a great movie, and I think that's an awesome way. I mean, you said you were 20, that you're jumping right into, you're on the cusp of your professional career, and what a cool way to commemorate that. I want to talk a little bit about the dancing that you did in other countries. I know that you've been in England and in Germany, and maybe you could just touch on that experience, differences in the approach between them, but also the styles, etc., the choreographers you worked with.
So, I started at Ballet Met in Ohio, and with David Nixon, he left, and Gerard Charles took over, and Nixon came back a few years later to set a ballet, and I just put in his head that I wanted to go to England, because I wanted to travel. Why not? Why not go experience as much as you can? I'm young, and why not do that? And that's where I fell in love with narrative full-length works, because that's a lot like Michael. That's all that Nixon does. So I fell in love with doing that. Fell in love with dramatic ballets, pas, all that kind of stuff. The only reason I left there is because I started to get tired. Really, I was a soloist there, and I was working nonstop at like well over 100 shows a year. And each week a different city and break stages, and I was like, I need to change of pace. So I decided to come back to Milwaukee, or no, I decided to come to Milwaukee. I reached out to Michael, because Michael used to, I don't know if you guys know this, he used to be associate director with the Northern Ballet Theater. And people told me, they're like, you'll love working with Pink. And so I reached out to him. I'm not going to go down the whole thing, but yes, we talked, he accepted me, I came. A few years in, I realized that I wanted to explore more contemporary work, because as much as I love narrative stuff, I love doing contemporary work as well. And I really wanted to just dive deep into that. And some choreographers I'd worked with, I'd talked to, there was a director in Germany, Robert Kahn of Ballet Augsburg. He needed a leading male. The ball started to get rolling, and I Robert kind of offered me a job over there, and I went to Michael and I said, "Can I go do this?" And he's like, "I'll let you go do it, but I want you to come back." So Michael let me have a little sabbatical for 3 years. It's not a little one. And I went to Germany. I did some amazing work. So I got to do Foresight and Killian and Galili and all this stuff, and that was it made me feel like I'm checking all the boxes in my career. You gotta want to explore everything, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to have people in power allow me to do that, like Michael. And so yeah, and then I came back home. Came back to Milwaukee after 3 years and opened up to Don Q.
Welcome back.
I came back from doing all that contemporary work to start with quite possibly one of the hardest classical ballets you could do.
If memory serves, I believe that's one of the, before we went on our hiatus for COVID-19, that was one of the repertory pieces that these pre-professional kids are working on. So I'm assuming they can all sympathize with that experience.
They're all young and nimble and quick, man. They got this, I was coming back mid-30s to do that.
There will always be Don Quixote. It will always be there. It will come around.
Right.
That's incredible. I mean, that's awesome. And it is very much, it sounds like you've gotten a chance to work on so many diverse projects. I know there's got to be some funny rehearsal stories, at least some that you can share with us today. Maybe, or at least something that was touching, or I don't want to put you too on the spot, so I'm going to scroll real quick and just see, do you guys have any other questions? Quick, we got. Yes. All right, I'll let you think about that one, Pat. So Grace, what's your question?
I was just wondering if you had like a role that was most fun in your career, like not necessarily your favorite, but I mean, yeah, but like most fun to do and like be that character.
Most fun is going to tie into Parker's question with memorable moments in the studio, and I tell you, that's got to be doing Stepsisters with Timothy O'Donnell. We couldn't keep it together. I don't know how we got through the show. It was like I literally laugh out loud thinking about it now. I mean, we're two grown men dressed as stepsisters, but we took those two girls to the next level.
Like, you did. I remember very well.
Like,
yes.
I remember inventing things in my mind during the show that I thought would be funny. Like going down the stairs at the ball. I at that moment, this was in the show. It's like, you have a fear of steps, so I started to get terrified to walk down them. But my movement became so like delicate and I'm cracking myself up. So yeah, it's got to be Stepsisters. It was really, really funny.
That's awesome. And that was actually, again, if memory serves, there was quite a bit of dancing in those heels. It was quite some impressive dancing.
You know what? It's not even what you're wearing on your feet. It's the amount of costume you have on and the wig and
layers. Sure.
You're trying to do these jumps and everything. And you know what? It's kind of like you throw technique out the window. You're like, I don't care what I look like. Look at me. Look how I'm dressed. Nobody's going to judge me right now. They're going to laugh. That's the point.
They're on your side. The audience loves it. They're on your side.
Oh, no, it was good fun.
Speaking of technique a little bit, considering these guys are like right on the edge of getting into sort of the second company / the internship, apprentice sort of thing, I was wondering if you had any advice for them as fledgling ballet dancers and artists. Any advice you wish you could have told to yourself, or just words of wisdom for them as they go forward?
Oh, now that's on the spot. Hard work makes for easy work. You work hard, and you'll get where you want to be, and then you can just relax with where you are. When you make it there, not relax, but just work hard to get where you want to be. And then you can sit back and be like, yes, this has paid off. Be open to all styles. Really. Like, you know, I have friends that I've worked with that are SAB babies that are in New York City Ballet now, and then like they won't even think about anything but the way that the Balanchine class is, or the book of Balanchine. I am against that. You have to go want to learn everything, and be open to try everything. And if you do that, you keep an open mind, you work hard, it will pay off. And never, you know, it gets hard out there when you're young and you're trying to find your way and trying to find places or people that should know you like you know you, and never get too stressed out about that. You just keep fighting. Stay on the grind. There's a place for you. I promise you that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Pat.
Do you have any advice for working through injuries? Because I'm currently working through an injury right now, and I feel like some words of wisdom would definitely help.
Well, yeah. Don't push through it. I've had 3 ankle surgeries. You got to give it its allowed time. Like, as I don't know what your injury is, but with any injury, and hopefully if you're injured as a professional, you're going to work with people that are understanding. If they're not, you're going to feel like, I've got to push through this. I've got to dance no matter what. You're only doing yourself a disservice. You have to be true to you. Like, if you're hurt, you're hurt, and take care of it. I think what did somebody tell me one time? I don't want heroes, but I don't want wimps, or something. That's not a great thing to say, but you have to be tough, but if you know what your body's feeling. So just be smart, really. I'm sorry that you're injured, by the way. What is it?
I have a tear in my labrum in my hip.
Be careful. Be careful.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely, the career takes its toll, that's for sure. But this has been an awesome experience to be able to talk to you guys today and hopefully get some of your questions answered. I'm going to ask one more time if we have any other questions. Now is the time. Sage, Marissa, yes, go for it. Marissa.
How do you keep yourself motivated even though like your day might be like super sucky? Like, how do you keep yourself motivated, not just be like, I hate this?
You mean as a dancer in the studio in the grind? Because my worst day is, if you ask me, better than most people's best day in an office somewhere. Yeah, I mean, if I'm having a rough time at work or whatever, I mean, if you make it as a dancer, if you become a dancer and you get paid for that, you're living your passion. There's no day that could be so bad where you're like, this is too much. You're living your passion. You're living your dream. And any job should have it should bring you to a point where you're like stressed out because you want to. I'm sure if you're stressed out as a dancer, it's because you want to be doing more or better, so that's a motivating factor. Just saying, I've had times in the studio, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, but is there anywhere else I'd rather be? To be making money, to be doing it, for it to be my job? I don't think so. So stay positive.
That's really, really, really good advice, Pat. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. I know this is kind of a unique situation because of the quarantine and all of those things, and we're separated. But huge thank you to you, Patrick, for taking the time to answer these questions and continuing to be awesome as you always are. I know that we're all anxious to get back doing what we love, so thank you.
I'm anxious to teach you cats again soon.
He's going to see you sooner than you know. Thank you, everybody. That's it. Have a good one, and we'll be seeing you all hopefully very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.